Hi there, are you an actor who's interested in learning more about the Alexander technique? Well, if so, friend, then this video is for you. Hi there, my name is Morgan Risden, and I'm the creator of Center Studio, where I teach people skills to feel more comfortable more often. Now, if you're new to my channel and this is your first time here, friend, welcome. You're in for a really special treat. I have an interview with a longtime student of mine, Hananya, and she's sharing a little bit about her experience with the Alexander technique and working with me. I hope if you enjoyed today's video, of course, you'll hit that subscribe button, also the notification bell that lets you know every week when I upload another video. And of course, feel free to check out some of my other videos as well. Now let's hear from Hananya. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to Hananya for agreeing to do this conversation today. We've talked for quite some time now about doing something like this. I was really eager to create an opportunity where we could learn more about how the Alexander technique helps students like yourself, actors, performers. And, I think that the insights that you're going to provide today will hopefully prove helpful for other people who are looking into exploring this work. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be with me. So to begin with, maybe we can just start with who you are, right? You can share with us, a little bit about you.
Okay, of course. Thanks so much for having me, Morgan. My name is Hananya Allen. I'm 20 years old. I'm an actress. I do some teaching. I teach theater to young kids. And I've been taking the Alexander technique with Morgan for about 2.5 years now. And I love it. It's a part of who I am.
Yeah, so maybe you can share with us why you even decided to start taking Alexander technique classes, in the sense of like, what about this class piqued your interest? What were you curious to learn about, or what drew your attention to this class?
Yeah, so when I first saw the class available, I decided to take it because I had no idea what it was. I was very curious of trying something new and going on an adventure. And I really just wanted to open up all aspects of myself with acting. And I knew I did that for camera and for stage. And I was really interested in, okay, what's the Alexander technique? Because I've never heard of it. So I wanted to know how it would help me as both a person and an actress.
Cool. So did it do that?
Yes.
Yes. What was your first? Yeah, I guess that's kind of a follow-up question is what was, your initial impression of the Alexander technique as far as what do you feel like you were really starting to walk away from your first series of lessons or classes? At the very beginning, what were the things that you really felt like you had learned and that really stuck with you?
At the very beginning, what stuck out to me the most was that acting has to do with all of you, not just a logical thing or a performative thing. Your actor self is also just yourself. You're bringing the same body with you to acting that you are to going to the grocery store. So I really wanted to think of both my actor self and myself as one human, as still Hananya. And that's really what stuck with me, because in Morgan's class, we were talking about things like our bones and our body. And I was like, what does that have to do with acting? But then I realized it has a lot to do with it because I'm using the same bones and the same body to go on stage or in front of the camera.
So I'm curious what your experience was with moving from in-person lessons to virtual learning, right? We had a few classes ahead of time where there was a lot of hands-on work, of course, and then we moved to a virtual setting where we met, we had kind of a pod, and there was a few of us that were meeting every week. In fact, it was, I think, twice a week for a lot of months. And what are the things that you felt like you were learning in that virtual setting? Were there things that really stuck out that you feel like, oh, I learned this because it was in a virtual setting? Is it possible to learn this work virtually, essentially?
Yeah, I think on a virtual setting, I really learned how to be still in my own body. In person, you can move around so much. And, I think you're not thinking about how much you're moving in person because you're not confined to this one box or square. So when we were doing virtual classes, I realized at the very beginning, I was just like moving all out of frame. I was playing with my hands, my foot was bouncing. I was looking all over the place. And when Morgan told me what I was doing, when she helped me observe that, I realized, oh, I am moving around a lot. I don't know how to be still within my body when I'm on Zoom with on a chair. So that was something I was able to work on a lot because I was confined to this box. Yeah.
Yeah, recordings were also really interesting and quite helpful, not just probably from a student's perspective, but also from a teacher's perspective. I thought, being able to really clearly see that arc that a student was taking, right, in their performances from a clear beginning to see how they were changing, how their craft and skill was becoming more fine-tuned. And while we use mirrors in person, I feel that we didn't always have the luxury of being able to reflect then on all of the changes that happened. You might get some classmates who are able to tell you, oh, I've seen some changes, but you yourself didn't always get to enjoy or appreciate all of the growth, right, that you were able to accomplish. And so I always found those recordings that we were able to do online to be really, really interesting and very helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree with the recordings. Just being able to watch myself back, it was easier to observe things and, just see if other people's observations of me were true or not. In my opinion, were they true or not? If someone made an observation of me, it might be a little difficult to tell in the moment, oh, am I doing this? But when you look back at a recording, you can see like, oh, I am doing this, or I'm not, or this is the reason why I am or I'm not doing this. And those recordings helped me a lot, even with like virtual auditions, because I had so many of those in the height of quarantine. It helped me just knowing how to, in a way, be one with my computer the same way that you would be on stage or with a camera. I had to learn to be that way with a computer or someone else over on Zoom.
Yeah. Why have you continued for so long? Like people might be like, oh, 2.5 years. She never learned it, right? Like what about this work keeps you continuously coming back for more? What benefits do you see as a performer or as an individual that you see room for your growth and development that leaves you keep coming back for more?
Okay. 2 years and still counting. I'm sticking with you, Morgan. I've continued because whenever I'm taking your classes or really, really thinking about it, I feel like I'm my best self. I'm, top of my game. I feel like that's where I am. So whenever I stop taking your classes, I'm able to remember what I learned and keep being that way. But I know as soon as I go back to Morgan's class, I'm going to realize, oh, I haven't met my full potential yet. I can keep going higher and higher. So that's why I always come back. I always realize, my body can be more free. I can breathing better. I can play more with my acting. Sometimes I think, I've discovered everything I can do with acting. I can't play any more in this scene. And Morgan would be like, what about this line right there? Have you ever thought about it this way? Oh, no, I haven't. I have not thought about that. And just as a person and an actor, Morgan's classes have your classes have helped me open up so much. And it makes me feel proud of who I am and proud that I can now see that I still have more to grow and to learn. I think that's what life is about, being able to continue to grow and learn. If there was nothing else to keep learning, what's the point? So, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, I had a teacher when I was training, Barbara Kent, and one time, probably my 3rd year of training, she came in and she said, so this week I've been working on my shoulder. And I thought, dear God, this woman is still working on things, even though she's been teaching this technique for so long. And it really gave me pause to think, there is no arrival point. There's no point at which this work, you're done. It's you've learned it and that's it. It's sort of ever evolving, always changing. And especially, thinking about it from an actor standpoint, there's a million different ways, right, to do a scene or to do a character, and that there's no sort of arrival, but that you can always find more to explore, more to practice and play with, to really inhabit a character in multiple different ways, not just sort of one singular way. So that always, it kind of reminds me that there's just a lot of potential for things to ever evolve and to continue to grow. Okay, so what is the thing that you feel like has really been a big game changer for you. Like if there was one thing, if you were going to be told, you're going to take Morgan's class and you can only learn one thing, and then you'll never have another Alexander Technique class again. What is the most valuable thing that you feel like has been a game changer in your life from this work?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. Um, if I have to go through an acting standpoint, I'm thinking first from an acting standpoint, it's really about my default tactics or my default characteristics, or gestures, personality traits, things like that. Really realizing the certain things that I do that perhaps make me me, or I thought made me me. That was crazy to learn, because I didn't realize how many things I do that stood out. This is difficult to explain.
Your
Um,
Hananya isms.
yes, my Hananya isms, the things I would do, like I realized I bit my lip. I would bite my lip a lot when I got nervous or when I got really excited. Sometimes I would look off to the side when I'm trying to remember something. And I'd remember, I can come back here and still remember, or I can pause and I can remember. And Morgan really like let me know there's completely different ways of doing something and getting to the same goal. And that helped me a lot with character work too, just making myself a blank canvas and then painting on that canvas, like adding characteristics on for different and new characters, rather than starting with myself, everything that there is about me. I can start blank, fresh from neutral and go forward. So I think that, and just learning how to play more, just being open and free and letting both your body, your mind, and your voice really have a very wide range. Like you're not just a soprano, like you can have a very wide range.
Yeah, no, awesome. I have this question for you then. It sounds like as an actor, you initially took this class, but are there things in which you've learned in this technique that you feel like skills you've developed or things that you've learned that you apply to your everyday life?
Yes.
Okay, so if you were to share, what are some of those things?
The first thing that comes to mind, I got my license at 19. I'm 20 now, but I got my license at 19. And I remember when I was learning to drive, it's like I went straight back to the very beginning of when I first started taking Morgan's classes. Like I was an amateur, like my neck was tense. I was at the wheel. It's like, what do I do? What do I do? And my leg was just like a peg leg. I was so stiff. And then I heard Morgan's voice in my head going, Chica, you can do less. You can do less. And my neck loosened, my shoulders dropped, my hands stopped choking the steering wheel, and my foot loosened up. And I realized, whoa, I can drive better if I'm not so tense, if I'm thinking about how I'm using my body, and I'm also letting my mind and my body be connected. If I'm telling myself, I can do this, my body will respond to that thought and going, I can do this. I don't have to hold on for dear life. I'm going to use the skills that I learned and trust myself. So that came in handy with driving. And now I drive so much better. I realize my knees don't hurt after driving because I let my legs go. My back doesn't hurt because I let myself sit back into the seat. So that helped me a lot with driving. And the Alexander technique, believe it or not, has helped me so much with foreign language. I study Mandarin, so I speak Mandarin pretty fluently, and I also speak some Spanish. And I realized whenever I was speaking Mandarin, because I was nervous of thinking, oh, do I know this word? I want to show off. So I would speak super fast in Mandarin to show that I'm fluent. Like I'd be going at this speed. I'm like, hey, you guys, I know you can understand me. And I'd realize I don't do that in English. I have no sort of thinking like, oh, someone thinks I don't speak English, I have to speak faster. So I'd realize my breathing when speaking Mandarin, that my chest was up here and I was always going fast, and walking around, for some reason, walking would help me think. And I realized, wait, I need to think about how I'm breathing in my body. And I would sit down and stop walking. I'd breathe deeper. And when I would talk, someone would tell me, wow, your pronunciation's really good. What just happened? Like, I sat down. Like, you sat down. So you learned words from sitting down, but just thinking about my body and my breath, I was able to recall more grammar and vocabulary. So it helps me with driving, it helps me with language, just all aspects of life.
Yeah, I always think, yeah, I think it's kind of funny because, until I have that saying, right, that you have to slow down to speed up. And I think it's easy to say that, but until you've experienced that, oh, it works, it's really it's hard to sometimes implement, right? Because in your case, for example, you might feel like, oh, I don't think my pronunciation is that good. And I feel like, do people understand me when I'm speaking this other language? And yet, when you have that validation from someone outside, it sort of confirms, oh yeah, I am able to do this. Like when I do slow down and I give myself some space to just breathe and allow myself to trust a little bit more that I do know how to speak the language, et cetera, it does work, right? And yet we don't always trust it because I think we have some habitual ways of sort of existing in the world on this sort of autopilot, as I like to call it. And, same thing for the craft of acting, right? If you've got a group of actors who are trying to just give themselves an opportunity to explore something new, they might feel after doing a lot less that, oh, that was just a bad scene, that, I could have done that character differently. And maybe your classmates are there saying, that was awesome. Like that time you did it, that take, that scene was particularly good. And yet you did very little from what you normally would do, right? It's a little counterintuitive. But I think in those moments, that space that you create when you do less, right? It really gives you an opportunity to be more efficient, to be more clear in your choices that you make as an actor, and just to kind of sit in that space to decide, what are my choices, right? Like, what do I want to do versus what do I habitually do, right? What do I always do? Okay, so maybe the last thing that you could share with us is, if I got hit by a bus, Hananya, what is the one thing that, what's the one thing you feel like you would probably take with you from the Alexander technique or from your experience working with me and with this work? What's the one thing you'll carry with you? I just came up with that question. I thought it was a good one, on the fly.
It is. Oh my gosh. I have to think about that. I think
the idea was so up there.
Okay.
We love the ceiling.
I think I don't want you to get hit by a bus. Okay, I'm knocking on wood. I would definitely take the being kind to yourself that I've learned taking your class and making observations about yourself, but being sure that they're observations and not judgments. So many times when I would rewatch my self takes or see old pictures of myself, immediately I would think like, oh, I don't like that, or oh, my hair looks so short there, or this, I don't like how I was smiling there, instead of just observing. And I really learned how to observe without making judgments taking this class. And I think that can be helpful for everyone in realizing you can see something about someone or about yourself or about a situation and observe it, maybe absorb it and understand it without making a judgment on it. And that's helped me just as myself when I look at myself in the mirror, when I look at my self tapes. And then I have the choice also to make a judgment. It's not saying you cannot judge, but realizing that your default may be set in judging rather than observing, then making the choice to judge. I can watch my self tape and go, okay, I said there. I said okay here. I was very lively here. My shoulders were slumped 3 seconds in. I can make those observations and then I can decide, oh yes, this is what I want for the character. Now I'm going to omit that and go from there. And I think it really gives a more positive and optimistic outlook on life, knowing that you have a choice to make judgments and to put your energy in certain places.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I think, as I always say, I feel like we're surrounded by judgment, a lot of judgment of other people. Like we don't have to judge ourselves. And to really free yourself of that kind of habitual way of thinking, those beliefs that you have about yourself, and just sort of restructuring your thinking to a place where you're really consciously choosing to observe, to be judgment free as often as possible, I think can be really beneficial and really opens you up for observing things for what they are and not attaching a judgment to it, unless, of course, you decide to. And I think that's a great state of mind that, so many of us can stand to benefit from. All right. Is there anything else as we wrap up that you feel, Hananya, that, an idea or concept or any final thoughts that you want to share?
Morgan didn't tell me to say this, but she's my favorite teacher of all time. I don't care what we're talking about, whether we're mean academic, acting, language, anything, life teacher. Morgan's my favorite teacher. And I just feel very grateful that I was able to meet her and take her classes, and that I'm still able to take her classes and continue to grow and just be on this journey.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Finally, I just want to say thank you, Hananya, for taking the time to have this conversation today, to share a little bit about your experience with learning the Alexander technique. Of course, also your experience of working with me. It's been personally a lot of fun for me to watch you as a student grow and develop. I feel like I've seen a huge evolution of you as a performer that has just been really awesome to witness. So I appreciate and value all the time that I get to spend with you. But I will, if you don't mind, I'm going to share your Instagram below in the comments, just so people can follow along, can check out your work, see what you're doing. And you've recently got the most beautiful headshots in the world, which just exude beauty and confidence and poise. So so people can check that out there. But again, thanks again. Now, I hope you enjoyed today's video, a little different. If you did, it would really mean a lot to me if you hit that like button. Also, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, friend, take care. Ciao.